Hey, that's pretty good. 123 to 105. The Raptors defeat the Portland Trail Blazers in Portland, the third game of their season-long 7-game road trip, and another win. So now 23 and 27. A game wherein I listened to the Portland broadcast, and for a long portion of it, they talked about, well, damn, like this Raptors team, they have so much talent on it. There's so many good players here who are being surveyed by other teams, and they talked about who's available, who isn't, and they came to the same conclusion that a lot of people have been, that there's a lot of talent on this roster. Why doesn't it work? There's lots out there as to why it doesn't work, but tonight it did, maybe mostly because of Precious Achiuwa, a guy who, when he's on his A game, completely changes and revolutionizes how the Raptors approach winning the front court battle. And 27 points, a career high, 13 boards, 2 steals, 1 block, 69% from the field, hit a triple at the end there, only 2 turnovers. With his bumped up usage, it's something to keep an eye on because the handle can get loose, the decision making can get wild, and he did it with Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent, and a paired back Fred VanVleet. OG Anunoby missing this game. I don't have any news on the imaging on his wrist. All we know is that it's been released as a sprain so far. So, yeah, really fun game off the bench for Chris Boucher as well. The Raptors, heavy minutes for the starters once again. Even though they started that first quarter 37-14, up by 23, Fred still plays 41 minutes in this game. Pascal 39, Scotty almost 38. Precious gets to 33, which I think is a good number for him. Gary almost 36. So minutes are still high. Even though the Raptors finished, they closed with Koloko and Doughton and Harper Jr., who scored his first NBA basket for what it's worth, and Wancho and Malachi. Still, those minutes are heavy. The Raptors, good defense in this one with Precious. This is the Raptors Reaction Podcast. I'm your host, Samson Folk. Okay, Gary Trent Jr., he comes out hot, shooting the lights out, had this incredible step back where it was like his body was twisted. He saw that the defender was sticking him better off of the behind the back, because he always says that double combo, right? Well, double combo is kind of doubling down on something that I shouldn't. The combo where he goes behind the back and then that big step back. And the guy stuck with the behind the back, but he stepped it back so far. I was like, I can't believe he gets back on balance. He didn't even seem to get back on balance, but he did enough to hit like this incredible shot. He was really cooking from the start. Precious scoring a lot at the start, mostly in the dunker spot, a little bit on the roll, but most importantly for Precious, usually the point guard is the head of the snake defensively, but when the Raptors are going to play Precious at the level of the screen and have him like, hey, you got to contest Damian Lillard when he's coming around. You got to make sure he's not comfortable pulling up. Fred, for example, Fred will be coming from behind. It's his job to pressure from the back so that, Dame can't get super comfortable, but you have to be present there. And you have to find the middle that you can track back to the roller. You can stick him if he drives, and you're present enough that he doesn't want to shoot. And Precious, in this game, he found it. I mean, Dame still finished with 30 points. Dame's going to get his numbers. But honestly, I think especially from the get-go in this one, Precious stepping out and being the guy who is guarding at the level of the screen. And also, Portland sticking a little bit too long on using Drew Eubanks as the main screener, right? They could go to Nasir Little. They could go to Jeremy Grant a little bit more often. Sometimes they did, but also Scotty and Pascal, they did a pretty decent job of stepping up when they needed to. But Precious, I think, deserves the most credit for that pick and roll defense. He's same as last season, where I was obsessing over it, and many people were, is like, this guy really changes the defense when he's on. There's a reason I was like, this guy needs to start at the start of the season, and I just wanted to see that happen. Obviously, in this case, coming at the expense or just filling in for OG Anunoby. Hope he gets healthy quite soon. That would be nice. And man, the Raptors, they look a lot better when they have that big man in the middle. And not surprisingly, Portland, who was without Yusuf Nurkic, they look a lot worse when they don't. And the Raptors, not only that, but, Scotty, there's this statistic I'd like to read for everybody, okay? And it's a super fun one, and it kind of reveals how Scotty has sharpened his game as of late, right? So this was the Raptors, I believe, or Scotty's 47th game of his season. His first 23 games, 106 assists, 58 turnovers. For a young player, he's very close to achieving that 2-to-1 assist ratio, which is considered a rule of thumb, a really good, that great risk reward, right? And especially for a guy like Scotty, who he doesn't get a lot of cheap assists. He's usually passing guys into advantage or does his best to. That's quite good. But his last 24 games now, he has 127 assists and 39 turnovers. That's massive. It's almost 3-to-1, right? Actually, that is exactly 3-to-1. Oh man. Anyway, that is a better than 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, and he's averaging over 5 assists per game in his last 24 games. And some of that has to do with the new role that the Raptors are kind of putting him in. He's being put in more advantageous spots, but also just making great reads, getting a little bit more confident on ball that he's like, I can manipulate from this spot on the court. And I've seen a few things from here. And also getting the ball down the stretch of games has really helped elevate. I know everybody's noticed this, that Scotty, he had that stretch where he was really kind of taking in the defense and looking at what was happening for the first 3 quarters, the first 2 quarters, and then coming on late. First of all, you'd rather have a player who performs well late than a player who performs well early, of course. You want a player who does it all during the whole game. And Scotty will get there, every game in, game out, which he has been doing lately. In this game, in many games, he's observing how the defense responds to him. And he's not necessarily picking out where he's going to win one-on-one, but he's seeing how the defense is responding to several actions. And as a trigger man and a point, like a hub, a conduit that the ball kind of touches Scotty's hands as he's making reads, and guys come and screen, use him as a screen, and they run actions off of him to give him passing reads and all that kind of stuff. We saw that in this game too. So great motion, great decision-making, 7 assists to 0 turnovers, 18 points for Scotty. Just trying to front load, talking about Scotty and how good he's been, because I didn't talk much about him after last game, in which he was also really, really great. Pascal, I mean, pretty low-key game for him. He went out there, he got his points. When the Raptors offense had slowed down and it wasn't really humming along, the ball went into his hands, and they said, hey, can you drag us through this? And he did, in that third quarter and early fourth. I think he did a really great job of providing them with offense. And as Portland kind of figure out that they could attack, they were trying to attack more in transition, right? They were trying to attack more outside of Damian Lillard just because of the way that the Raptors were loading up on him. And so that means that the Blazers are pursuing earlier offense, finding some, but also that, Damian Lillard is getting the ball not in the primary initiation, but in these second side actions where he's able to get to the rim a few times, where he's able to hit a couple threes, find his way. Portland kept plugging away on offense. And in the middle quarters, the second and third, they did a really good job scoring the ball. But when the Raptors really had to batten down the hatches in this game, they figured it out. The Raptors, once again, they don't go to the line a bunch in this game. They don't shoot the 3 very well in this game. I think they hit double digits, but only 10. And they shot 33%. That's bad. In the NBA, that is bad. Bad volume, bad percentage. And the Raptors won a game doing it. Why? Because their defense was going. Who is the biggest boon to their defense right now? I think it's Precious Achiuwa. Precious at his best can contend with OG, at his best as far as impact and things they're able to do on defense. And Precious also makes up for and is able to kind of problem solve some of the problems, defensive problems, that come up because of other players on the roster. He makes everybody look better. And this game, no different, but the biggest difference is that, which he has been doing as of late, is taking the ball on offense, understanding sometimes when he has the ball that ball needs to go out, the Raptors need to run an action that doesn't feature Precious on ball. And him making good decisions when to do that, and also knowing when to call his own number. This is one of the most interesting aspects of being a true talent in the NBA is what is your personal hierarchy for how an offensive possession should unfold with you on the floor? And especially if the ball comes into your hands, how do you apply your talent, your multifaceted talent? What do you decide to do? And Precious, with so much of it, and is so capable of doing so many things that his contemporaries in the front court across the NBA just cannot do. And then also being blessed physically, athletically, a lot of guys smaller than him can't bang around, can't explode to spots, can't finish above the rim like he can. This is a guy who is, I think, really finding in all these games recently, the perfect touch. He knows when to pound dribble, bump, finish at the rim. He knows when there's a couple guys who are blanketing him, that ball needs to go out. He can run back up to the 3-point line, set a screen, catch on the roll. He's also knowing more often now that, like, when he's on the roll, is it all the way to the rim? Is he stopping short? Does he make a read to the corner? All this kind of stuff. 27 and 13, the reads were mostly for his own stuff and helped by being, catching lobs, being given lots of laydowns in the dunker spot, courtesy of, Scotty and Fred mostly in this game, Pascal a little bit too. But this was just a fantastic job. And Scotty and Pascal, those guys starting, Precious, Scotty, Pascal, it really gives opposing front courts a lot to deal with. And especially if the opposing front court is like Jeremy Grant and Drew Eubanks. Yeah, maybe you consider Nasir Little the 4 instead of the 3. I don't know. It doesn't matter that much, but the Raptors, they won that matchup heavily, and that's something you have to do. And also, this is a team we just watched Dante DiVincenzo get 11 assists against the Raptors. The motion-heavy aspect of the Warriors was really good at really disrupting the Raptors' timing on defense, their connection, their continuity. Against the Blazers, it was much better. Now, some of that is because they're a little bit more linear in the way that they decide to run their pick and roll offense. And as I said, Precious in particular moved them off of a lot of actions and then was waiting at the rim for a lot of other ones. But I think the Raptors as a whole did a very good job defending at the point of attack in this game. So it's a credit to the guys who were obviously playing in the big man spots, guarding the screeners, the rollers, but also Fred and Gary, I think, deserve quite a bit of credit too. The Reggie Evans Award, I want to give it to Precious. Like, who else, right? Like, Precious, the defense, palpable, the offense, palpable, and, the effort, palpable for sure. Top quick reaction comment is from spanishsupafly, quote, Precious really justifying his value in that Lowry swap. Wow, he's come back with a vengeance this season. Happy for him. Him, Scotty, and Gary are definitely pieces for the future. I hope they let Gary stick around for another contract at least. Really like our young bucks. Say what you want about Freddie. The one thing I love about the guys, he isn't scared to step up to anybody. That's a quality I admire in players and something I see in Barnes, Gary, and OG. Get in their face and let them know about it when they're jawing too much. Kudos on that. A good win during a down year. Nice to see some Raptors basketball on occasion. Yeah, the Precious coming back in that Lowry trade is honestly over the last however many months of decision making of the Raptors, that little stretch where they got Precious Achiuwa and Scotty Barnes is going to loom large for the future of this team. You can't deny that. It's a super, super big deal. You hit on that for sure. I think most players on the Raptors have been, as far like, no nonsense when guys are talking trash, I suppose. You can think of, like, whether it's the Pascal Siakam, Bobby Portis moment or whatever, or Christian Koloko versus Martin, right? There's a moment for many players on this team. And they definitely, there's like a dog in them aspect, which is why they, I mean, there's a dog in them aspect because they all just play more minutes and they run more miles than like everybody else in the NBA. To play on the Raptors, you don't have to do a lot of things. They're not asking for certain ball skills. They're not asking for certain talents, but they are asking for certain amounts of effort. And whether or not these guys can maintain that from like a physical point of view, I think they've all, maybe not this season as much, but they've all played a lot of games, a lot of minutes, and run a lot of miles, super high intensity. And there's a few guys on the team that have won a chip, and that's the reason why. Obviously not as the guys on the team, but you can see the winning pedigree in the way they play, even if it's tough to maintain. Thanks for writing in, Spanish Superfly. Listener, thank you for listening in. If you got into this on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm told that it helps. Go to raptorsrepublic.com, subscribe. I know that one helps. And if you're listening on the podcast channel, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye.